Hello everyone and welcome back. Today, we have an absolute thriller from the Chennai Grand Masters 2026. On one side, one of the world's most creative attacking players, Grandmaster Alireza Firouzja. On the other side, the reigning world champion, Grandmaster Gukesh. This wasn't just a battle of opening preparation. It became a nerve-wracking fight where both players were running dangerously low on time. Brilliant ideas were mixed with costly mistakes, and the evaluation swung wildly until the very end. Let's dive into this incredible encounter. Firouzja began with pawn to e4, and Gukesh replied pawn to e5. Knight to f3, knight to c6. Then came bishop to b5, entering the famous Ruy Lopez. Gukesh immediately challenged the bishop with pawn to a6, forcing it back to a4 before developing his knight to f6. Firouzja castled kingside. Gukesh answered with bishop to e7. Rook to e1 followed, supporting the center, and Gukesh expanded on the queenside with pawn to b5, again chasing the bishop, which retreated to b3. Black also castled. A completely classical Ruy Lopez position appeared on the board. Firouzja played pawn to h3, preventing any bishop or knight jumps to g4. Gukesh calmly developed his bishop to b7. Pawn to d3. Pawn to d6. Everything looked balanced. Firouzja developed his bishop to d2, while Gukesh played the flexible knight back to b8, preparing to reroute the knight toward d7 and support the queenside. Firouzja immediately questioned Black's queenside with pawn to a4. Knight to d7 followed. Knight to c3. Then Gukesh strengthened the center with pawn to c6, preparing for long-term control. Firouzja exchanged on b5 with pawn takes b5. Gukesh replied pawn takes b5. Then came an interesting decision. Firouzja brought his rook to a8, exchanging rooks immediately. Gukesh recaptured with his queen. The queenside became simpler, but the queen on a8 would remain active throughout the middle game. Now Firouzja shifted his attention toward the kingside. Knight to h4, a very ambitious move. The knight eyes the important f5 square and also supports attacking ideas. Gukesh answered with pawn to g6, preventing immediate jumps. Firouzja continued aggressively with bishop to h6, hoping to exchange Black's important dark-squared bishop. Gukesh defended with rook to e8. Then came queen to f3. Suddenly, White's queen, bishop, and knight were all looking toward the Black king. Sensing the danger, Gukesh calmly retreated his bishop to f8. Firouzja exchanged bishops. Black recaptured with the rook. Immediate attack disappeared, but White still kept some pressure. Queen to e3. Gukesh centralized with queen to d8. Then Firouzja boldly placed his queen on h6, staring directly at the Black king. It looked dangerous, but Gukesh stayed calm. Knight to c5 attacked the bishop. The bishop stepped back to a2. Then Gukesh improved his bishop with bishop to c8, preparing further defensive resources. Knight returned to f3, and then came an important strategic decision. Gukesh pushed pawn to b4. Instead of defending passively, he started creating his own counterplay. Firouzja moved the knight to d1. Now Black's queen entered with queen to a5. The bishop came to c4, controlling important diagonals. Then Gukesh advanced again. Pawn to b3, an excellent space-gaining move. Firouzja captured that pawn with his bishop. Gukesh immediately answered by capturing that bishop with his knight. After pawn captures on b3, White obtained the bishop pair no longer, but opened the b-file. Gukesh's queen entered aggressively with queen to b4. Knight to e3. Then Black grabbed another pawn with queen takes b3. At this moment, Gukesh had active pieces and excellent practical chances. Now things became dramatic. Both players had only a few minutes left. Firouzja played queen to h4. Engine later showed this wasn't the best move. Gukesh immediately placed his knight on h5, chasing the queen and preparing jumps toward f4. Firouzja calmly moved his queen to e7, attacking the d6 pawn. Now came the first major turning point. Instead of the strongest continuation, Gukesh played knight to f4. That allowed Firouzja to simply capture the pawn on d6 with his queen. Suddenly, White had won an important pawn. But Gukesh wasn't finished. His knight jumped to d3, attacking from deep inside white's position. Firouzja defended with rook to b1. Then Gukesh played pawn to f6. The engine disliked this move. It weakened black's king and gave white significant chances. Firouzja centralized with knight to d2. Gukesh's queen stepped to b5. Then, one of the biggest moments of the game, Firouzja played knight to c4. Unfortunately, this was a serious blunder. Instead of increasing the pressure, the knight moved away from critical defensive duties. Immediately, Gukesh seized the opportunity. Knight to f4. Once again, black's pieces became incredibly active. King to h2, bishop to e6. Everything was hanging by a thread. And then, another twist. Firouzja placed his rook on c1. Now Gukesh had an excellent position, but under severe time pressure, he made a huge mistake. Instead of maintaining maximum pressure, he captured the knight on c4 with his bishop. That decision allowed white to recapture with knight to c4. Ironically, that recapture itself was also inaccurate. The engine preferred taking with the rook. This game had completely transformed into a battle where both players were surviving move by move. Gukesh played rook to f7. Firouzja defended with rook to c2. Black's queen moved to b3, another move the engine didn't like. King to g7 followed. Firouzja collected another pawn with queen takes c6. Black answered with queen to b4. Firouzja returned his queen to c4, missing an even stronger continuation. Gukesh defended with rook to b7, another inaccurate move. The evaluation kept swinging. Neither player could fully control the chaos. Firouzja played queen to c8. Gukesh returned his rook to f7. Then came another huge mistake. Firouzja moved his queen to e8. The engine called this a blunder. But amazingly, Gukesh immediately returned the favor by moving his rook to e7, missing an even stronger winning opportunity. Neither player had enough time to calculate everything. Firouzja's queen moved to d8. Gukesh brought his knight to e6. Firouzja advanced his knight to d5, but Gukesh calmly eliminated white's queen with knight takes d8. White immediately recaptured knight with knight takes b4 after the sequence, simplifying into an endgame. Now the queens were gone. The position looked roughly balanced, but every tempo mattered. Gukesh activated his rook to b7. Firouzja centralized his knight to d5. Black's knight came to e6. Firouzja expanded with pawn to b4. Gukesh pushed pawn to f5, trying to create counterplay. Rook to c6, king to f7. Pawn to b5. Knight to d4, blockading the pawn. Firouzja checked with rook to c7. After the exchange of rooks, white's knight recaptured. Now the game entered a pure knight ending. Firouzja pushed his passed pawn to b6. Gukesh's king marched toward the center. Knight to d5. King to c6. Pawn to f3. Black exchanged on e4. White recaptured. Knight to b3. King to g3. Knight to d2. Here came another critical mistake. Instead of placing his knight on a stronger square, Gukesh chose knight to d2, allowing Firouzja to seize the initiative. Knight to f6. Black grabbed the dangerous passed pawn on b6, but white's knight became extremely active. King to f2. Then came perhaps the decisive mistake. Gukesh played pawn to h5. This move fatally weakened the kingside. Firouzja instantly checked with knight to d7. The king stepped to c7. Then white captured the pawn on e5. After knight takes e5, white suddenly had connected ideas against black's kingside. Black checked with knight to e4. King to e3. Knight to f6. Then white captured another pawn with knight takes g6. One by one, black's pawns disappeared. King to d6, king to f4. Knight check from d5. King to g5, knight to e3. Knight back to f4. King to e5, pawn to g3, king to e4. Then came another important capture. Knight takes h5. Black tried king to f3, but this only accelerated white's attack. Pawn to g4. Knight retreated to d1. Finally, Firouzja brought his knight back to f6. At this point, black's position was completely lost. With white's king active, the knight dominating the board, and black unable to stop the advancing pawns, Gukesh resigned. What an extraordinary game. The opening was deeply strategic. The middle game became a fascinating battle of ideas. Then the clock became the biggest opponent for both players. We witnessed brilliant positional play, tactical oversights from both sides, dramatic evaluation swings, and an endgame where activity proved more valuable than material. Firouzja showed incredible fighting spirit, surviving several dangerous moments before exploiting Gukesh's final inaccuracies to score a memorable victory. If you enjoyed this dramatic battle from Chennai Grand Masters 2026, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. Which move do you think changed the course of this incredible game?